Thank you so much for joining us today on the Gold Brick Road podcast. I'm your host, Kenji Shimada. This is Carl Brockman. Welcome to the Gold Brick Road, the path that we are called to walk in this life, should we choose to accept it. And the answer is, accept that call, all right? And today we have the wonderful Gareth. He has joined us today. He is in the Gold Coast. We met on another one of those wonderful tech walks. Gareth is a leader in the generative AI space, merging human-centered design with cutting-edge technology to revolutionize how small businesses grow. We did actually mention it's a pretty banging tagline. Um, and so we got a lot of questions that we'd love to ask Gareth. I'm sure this is just going to become a yarn fest of AI. And so, first question, Gareth, why AI?
That's such a good question. My wife asks me that pretty regularly, especially because I've gone full time in the space. Um, I think it was maybe 3 years ago. It was November 2022 or December 2022. All the years blur into one. But I was sitting around a barbecue with my dad and brother, and that's when ChatGPT 3.0 came out. And my brother and I were just
Hmm.
tearing shreds off my dad, creating like Eminem rap songs about my dad and like Shakespearean plays. And it sounds like it was fun, and especially because we'd had a couple of wines and beers, and my brother and I love winding my dad up. But that for me was almost that moment. I know it sounds quite extreme, but it was like I discovered fire,
Hmm.
and my brain just exploded. And then fast forward March the next year, my two co-founders and I, we just started getting asked to do stuff around our day jobs, and then just went all in August that 2023. And probably the biggest why for me was I could see how quickly and easy I could help a lot of people, like really help, not just write funny songs, but and really help businesses, really help people have, because I wanted other people to have that I've discovered fire moment. So went all in and been all in ever since.
Even like this morning, you were talking to us about like just a very simple morning routine that you have and how you're really optimizing it. I'd love to hear it again for our audience if you're happy to share.
Yeah, of course. So a bit of context around that. We believe in this phrase or this definition of skeuomorphism. I don't know if we chatted about it on our walk, Kenji, but my co-founder Ben, it took him about 5 goes to explain to me what this concept was, and he was about to bring out the crayons and draw it for me because he's obviously highly intelligent. He's dumbing stuff down for me, but it's that concept of you get a new technology and you apply it in your old ways of working. So Ben always used to say to me is when radio first came out, you had these news readers. They would sit in front of a microphone with the newspaper and read the newspaper. So they did what they did before with this new tech. Only after radio was out for a while, they started to go, I can walk out of the studio and go and interview someone in the street. I can tell stories to my listeners. Same thing happened with film is when film first came out, they got these giant cameras on tripods and they plonk them down in front of a stage and just filmed people acting out a play. And then after a while, they were like, actually, I could move this around. I can zoom in and all this sort of stuff. This technology opened up a new space. And to your point around the morning routine I was talking about is a lot of people are using AI note takers. They're a lifesaver. Like for me, they take really good notes. But we were sort of thinking we're probably using that in a bit of a skeuomorphic sense. We were using it to take notes for us and doing a really good job at it, which is totally fine. So we thought, what's a non-skeuomorphic way I could use this tool? So in the mornings, I wake up in the morning and my brain's been running a million miles an hour at night. Like I've had all my best ideas and I don't want to lose them. So I get my British Bulldog Bennett, chuck his harness on, and we have an amble down the street. But I put my headphones in and I talk to Otter. So Otter AI is the note taker we use. And I just download what's in my brain from overnight. And it's a ramble. It's like, oh yeah, and then I've got this idea and I'll talk about the idea, then I'll jump to, and I've got to write these 3 emails and I've got to remember to do this. So Otto just sits there and listens. And then I get back to my desk and then I start to ask Otter to act on those tasks. So I would say, those 3 emails that I told you about, can you draft them for me? The idea that I mentioned this morning, can you create a basic business case for me? Do some market sizing. So all of those, that bit of a ramble, and then I'll say, can you organize my task list for the day based on the things that you heard were the most important to me? So that's sort of a way I get out of my brain, and then I can start my day with more structure.
So good. So good. Definitely using Otter AI a lot better than I am. That's for sure.
But it's really interesting.
Oh, no, no, please, please. What's interesting? And then I'll ask a question after.
Well, I did have a really bizarre moment on one of my morning dog walks. So I was happily like bumbling down the street talking to Otter, and then Bennett was walking along, and then another dog owner came the other way, and had a boxer, and Bennett and the boxer were interacting, and I just started talking about Bennett to the other dog owner, about how he's an anxious dog. He gets really stressed, and he thinks everything's out there to attack him. When I got back and I was talking to Otter, Otter started to mention, here's some things you could do to help Bennett with his anxiety. And I was like, it's like, sounds like Bennett, being a British bulldog, is anxious. And make sure he gets lots of enrichment. This is a common trait in British bulldogs. Do these things. And I was like, wow, so it wasn't only helping me organize my day, it was giving me ways to help Bennett with his anxiety.
I'm actually a little bit disappointed. You'd think Otto would be able to discern that you weren't speaking to it, but I guess we're early stages of AI, right?
Yes.
No, no, I'm really curious. Like you mentioned, discovering fire. I can only imagine that feeling. I guess the closest that I could relate to that in my career, Gareth, was so I spent a lot of time leading sales teams and then facilitating sales consulting workshops, and then I became a leadership development facilitator. And suddenly I was talking about building high performing teams, the coaching models, performance conversations, and I saw this same pattern of communication, of psychology, of transformative journey through sales, through coaching, through leadership, through all of these different areas. And I was like, why is no one talking about this? It's the same journey. It's the same link. As close to alchemical transmutation as well. The breakdown, the sorting truth, the new life, the purify and refine. And that to me is probably the closest I can feel like I understand what you're saying, Gareth. But tell me more about what it meant to discover fire and how that flowed into perhaps up to Friday or wherever you think's relevant.
I love how you use the word feel, because it was that feeling. It really, and it's that feeling where it felt like my brain was exploding with possibilities, but I could barely keep up with what could happen, if that makes sense. And I just wanted to, I had this deep desire. I want to spend time in this, and I want to give more people that experience. And I just want to keep trying stuff, because the two or three things it had showed me, that feeling, I was like, there is so much possibility. So even, I think it was maybe 2 weeks after that barbecue with my dad and brother, I was wandering around in the kitchen. I opened the fridge. I took a photo of the inside the fridge, gave it to ChatGPT, and asked it for dinner recipes.
Get out of town.
And it was awesome, because we were late in the week, so our fridge was pretty bare, and I was like, oh, I got to cook for the family. This is going to be terrible. I'll probably be sausages and mashed potatoes if you've got potatoes. But it was like, great, you can create like a garlic, spinach, pasta, because it worked out I had a bit of garlic in the fridge door. So that was like those types of moments. And it's almost like I keep having them. And we have this central thesis at Fridays that sort of generative AI is easier than you think, but more powerful than you can imagine. Because we're trying to articulate that. We couldn't say, we'll help you discover fire, because people would go, we've already discovered fire, so thanks for that, but no. So we put it through in that phrase instead, because we want to help other people have that moment. But I love how you described it, Carl. It's like you see all these pieces fall, and you're like, and it's almost, how are people not seeing this? It's just so incredible and so amazing and so obvious now that I've seen this pattern, and now I want to like bring that to more people.
I'm so glad that you had that moment and you can see the power of it. And as you said, like the fire came, but it's funny, fire's got two components, right? Super powerful and helpful with day-to-day life, and my God, it can burn shit down. And so I guess we all see the nature of AI, and there's so many people that are just willing to give on their whole life to this thing. But for you, why do you think we just discussed it on the walk about the human-centric nature of what we're focusing on, and like, the position that people play? Why is it focus to augment and not to replace is important from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Kenji. And it was really good chatting to you about it because that's something that absolutely drives us, and to the point where we've walked away from paying projects. And there's three co-founders, so we all get in a bit of trouble with our home CFOs, our wives and partners, who are, you walked away from a project and we've got bills to pay. Tell us how that works, but we
I
have to
love that, the
explain
home
to them
CFO.
why. But we have had projects where we've, yeah, reasonably well-respected companies said, oh, we want you to work with us, help us train an assistant. We want to completely remove this whole function, get rid of all these team members. And we say, well, that's not for us. So find someone else, go to a big four consulting firm, because augmenting means helping people do their stuff better. So like your co-intelligence. And that ties back to that experience is we want employees in those businesses to have those moments to go, wow, this isn't here to replace me. This can make me even better. Or we use this phrase, this can liberate my time to focus on things that I really value. And when we find that alignment with a company and they want to do that as well, then it's a really nice fit because they're focusing on making the humans experience better. So bringing joy back to their jobs, liberating their time. And then we're both aligned and we can actually start to go, great, who are the humans in your business? Who are the humans you serve? Who are your human customers? What are their problems? How do we help solve those problems with smart applications of AI?
Why is that even more important now than ever for you?
Yeah, I think it's because if we don't do that, we're going to make ourselves redundant, but redundant in the things we're not going to create new and even better things, because the way the models work is they rely on us to prompt them and ask us to ask really creative, powerful questions to get new outputs. But if we are just focusing on just replace what I'm doing, we're going to get a whole lot of average of a reproduction of what we've always created. If that's sort of like how we think through it. So if we're focusing on, okay, what are we great at? And then how do we articulate those powerful questions? And we can create new and exciting things. And that's where, say, when we work with clients who have that alignment with us, 2 or 3 weeks we come back in and the employees are like jumping out of the seats to tell us the stuff that they're doing and the new things that they've created, the new ideas they've had, and stuff that wasn't possible for them before they're able to do. But without understanding the person, what's unique about them, what problems they're trying to solve, you're just jumping in and replacing and doing what you've done before just slightly better, and then the humans lose out from it. And then we sort of lose a bit of our like uniqueness as people, like the connections we have with other people, the collaboration we have. We just end up becoming, people just data entry and just putting in requests, and then the machines are just churning out, generic stuff for us, and we've just replaced what we've done before. And that got really like, almost philosophical there, that answer.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable with this nature of this conversation, right? Like, I remember when I was in Tokyo and I was talking to a guy that was a German guy living in Tokyo working on AI back in 2017, this was. And so they were working at a company there. But they had like a gentleman who used to be a Buddhist monk was there because there was in its nature like all these very philosophical questions of like, well, what are the guidelines we give it? Do we just be like go for broke, think for yourself, or do we give it some sort of conditions? But I just love that, and Carl is actually a great testament for me here, even this morning of we're talking, and he was just talking about some of these questions he was asking clients, and Carl's just fantastic with his questions. And I'm always just like, that was a great fucking question.
Yeah, that is awesome, because if we think about where we are now, so where we were before is a lot of the power resided in the people that had the answers. So I'd go see a lawyer because I'd sit across the table from this lawyer, maybe some big oak desk, and behind him is all these massive law texts. I'm like, wow, I need to go through that person, that really smart person on the side of the room, to get access to all that sort of knowledge. We're in an age now where everyone on the planet, or anyone who has a smartphone and a data plan, potentially has access to infinite expertise. So winning isn't the answers. The people that are going to win are the ones that ask powerful questions. Because an AI model is never going to say, no, Kenji, you shouldn't have prompted me that. You should have prompted me this. It's only going to respond to the questions you ask. So the better we get at being curious and asking really powerful questions, the more amazing stuff we're going to unlock.
Yeah, beautifully said, Gareth. And for me, that's what's one of the super exciting things about living today is that the intellect, well, intellect isn't a baseline for whatever level success, right? Like anyone with agency or anyone that has the courage to take a risk or to build something for themselves or to go into a place where they don't feel comfortable and they don't know, as you pointed to, they have access to every supporting thing that they could have access to carve that path. And not just AI, not just the ability to use ChatGPT's deep research or Claude to help you write or all of these other things to like Friday to help you generate leads, etc., etc. You have access to connect to so many people as well from wherever you are. And for me, and this is one of the, I guess our core tenets at Goldbrick Road, it's the human experience is all we have individually and therefore is the most important thing collectively. And to operate in a way and to hear how you're building your business from the sense of, well, how does this enhance the human experience? How does this help us create and build more? Yet rather than the probably more nihilistic approach of, yeah, let's refine, let's automate, let's just make what we're doing now more effective and efficient. You know, if you're not growing, you're dying. And for me, the organizations that will really excel in the next 20 to 30 years and are already excelling in the last 10 to 15 years are the ones that understand that experience at the core, understand what that facilitates to the market, and double down and triple down on ensuring that that flows out regardless of a number here or an automation here or an efficiency here. And like you see that the Starbucks I love using Howard's story. It's just all the way down to what experience that client is getting, and then therefore what experience the employee must have to facilitate that. And there's that you go to New York and there's a Starbucks. I'm walking out of a Starbucks and I see two more in eyesight. Like, how does that even work as a business model? But I'll stop my little rant there. But I'm curious to just, if you were to think about the unskeuomorphic nature of how we continue to use AI, Gareth, what does that look like for you, like personally in your company? But then can you sort of float that and see that for more of us in the business world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think and tapping into what you said is that if you understand the experience and the outcomes you want to get, the fact that AI can help you get there is irrelevant. Because at the moment, the problem is that, and I see it on TV, I'm watching TV and it's like, new LG washing machine with AI. I'm like, what?
Yes.
What?
Quiet.
Like, really? And it's like, far, like, it's just so irrelevant. It's a tool that can help you get to a better outcome. So the businesses that, where the ones that are going to win and where that can go to in terms of, because if they are thinking, and we've spoken to a lot of CEOs, execs, chairmen, board members, small business owners, it's like, I need AI. You're like, okay, why? I don't know. Like, I need it. Like, my phone's got it, my washing machine's got it. Yes. Yeah, like I'm seeing on TV, like, I need it. Like, okay, well, if you reframe that and say, well, and this is what gets really exciting is when you get them to define their vision and ambition for their business, what's preventing you from getting there? Like, you've got this wonderful space you want to get to. What's the things that are hard today that are stopping you getting there? And then starting to unpack those and how might you now get there with the smart application of tools, one of them being AI in that context. So the businesses that can still focus on that ambition and that target, like, oh, this is where I want to get to. and here's what's stopping me getting to, and then how can I unpack those and then start to apply that. And I'm still on that mission and vision, because that I totally believe that that vision or mission of your business, where you want to get to, shouldn't change. It shouldn't change because of AI. It might mean that you can get there 10 times faster, 100 times cheaper, do it at a scale of 1,000 times, but that core reason for why you're doing it can still remain. And we love working with small businesses, because I think there's no better time now because to be a small business owner or have an idea for a business, because there's a disproportionate advantage for small and medium businesses now that have never existed before. And you speak to them and they've got this wonderful passion, and they got into that business not to sit there and process invoices, not to like do the day. They got there because of the core product or experience that they wanted to create. And now they can liberate their time from all of those elements and focus on what matters. So like we're working with an awesome Gold Coast pest control business, been around for many years, awesome reputation, and they did our house. Haven't seen a cockroach in 10 months. Awesome job. Like they're fantastic. And that's what the owner loves. You're like, I love like, someone's about to buy a house. I go in and do a termite inspection. I help them go, oh, okay, I need to, like, it's those little things. But he was like, oh, but it's hard because I get to a Friday and I don't have time to talk to my customers or help my team, in their work, because I'm just dragged down with all the admin of a successful business. That's where the opportunity for them can be. They alleviate that, and then they go and help more people like us not see a cockroach for 10 months. I know it's a strange example, but
No, I think you're just talking about the complexity that's out there and the opportunity for, like you said, those small to medium class businesses to really capitalize on it. And that's why we just had a great conversation on the Tech Walk, is because we know that the human first, right, Gareth, that it's so important to have that at Gobrick Road, like, the vision, the mission, it's so crucial, like the purpose that we're here for, because as you said, everything else can revolve around it, right? Everything can change and shift and transform, but because if that core value is sort of abdicated, then what is it that we're sort of here to be custodians of? And so, one of the biggest missions in our business is simplify to amplify. And I'd love to know how, you've spoken to me about it, but how simplify to amplify was really embedded into Friday and changed the direction for you guys.
yeah, I love that. It's got a nice ring to it. Simplify to amplify. You have to get like get a big neon sign in the background for your pods.
Yeah.
So it's a really, I think there's a couple of ways that I think one way we think through that is from a simplification perspective is why are you doing what you're doing? What are you passionate about? Just strip out anything, and sometimes when we ask that, they tell us their origin story. Like, this working with this mechanic, he owns a couple of mechanic shops now. And he was just sharing that when he started out, I think it was in northern New South Wales, he just got a stack of business cards, started at the top of the street of work, because he was just a great mechanic. He wanted to start his own business. He started literally at the top of the street of his local suburb, walked through every business, spent like a whole day, and got to the end of it, he'd given out all his business cards, because that was how he got started. Because he's like, I just need to get new people in my business. Once I do work for them, they'll see how great I am. And then those people started coming in. He just did a really good, honest, transparent job on servicing their cars. Word of mouth spread. And then he got more and more business, and he just kept focusing on delivering a great job. And I was like, that's such a clear articulation of just focusing on what matters. And same thing for us is, and we do struggle, we do have a bit of a problem in this space with focus, because there's so much cool stuff we could do. And
you do so
we're
much
like
with
kids.
fire. You can do so
yes, yes. We can cook marshmallows. We can like do some back burning, but we often have to keep coming back to, like, we have our collab jams on Monday mornings for 2 hours with the three of us. And we have to keep saying, we get out of our system, out all the cool products we could be launching in market and helping businesses. We go, okay, but what are we focusing on right now? And how is that helping our clients? And just keeping that, what we say, I think Charmaine obviously always says, maintain the rage in terms of where we need to focus. Because if we keep there, that myopic focus on the what we do well and what we can help businesses on, the results start to come and our business grows. But it's a constant tension for us, because we can jump onto the next thing. We're like, okay, how are we keeping focus and on the things that really matter? Keep it simple because we know that works. And that's I think that's maybe a way that we try and embody that, Kenji, that simplify to amplify, because we want to do a couple of things really, really well rather than a lot of stuff okay and never really finishing things. I think what's
Yeah, I remember you sharing that with me that you had to really simplify a lot of what you guys are doing in Friday. And the same as us at Gobrick Road at the beginning, we thought we could just do everything, right? Yes, we could facilitate this and work with that person like this, but in the end, we didn't have a straight and narrow focus. And it sounded like that was similar for you guys, that you had to cut a lot of that fat off.
Yeah, 100%. And we had this, there's always this line that this product manager I worked with years ago used to say to me. He said, stop starting and start finishing. And I was like, oh, yes. Like, and that's like me every second day. Like, I put the things I want to start on my whiteboard, and then I have the things I need to finish in my notepad that's next to my desk. Because once I finish that on my A4 pad next to me, I can then get up and go to the whiteboard, which are the big ideas.
That's a really good system. I really like that. So yeah, having your ideas, the things that are inspiring, the things that are motivating, front and center. However, in a very practical, efficient way to help you focus. No, these things first. Get these
Yeah.
things done first.
Yeah, I have to. Otherwise, I'm like wandering around my pod, throwing ideas around and starting another million things. And then my two co-founders are like, oh no, what 3 more products you want to like launch in market?
Especially when you're working with AI, like we were talking about just before we entered into this podcast, that I've just found the deep research function in ChatGPT, and on the side I could see its workings, that it is, and because we've talked to people that have research bots out there and stuff, and I was like, okay, maybe I understand the complexities of it, but you can see that it's just talking to itself almost, that it's just going question this and then this and then this. And it's just going crazy right now of like what that is. I can only imagine living in AI world and thinking, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. But in the AI world right now, what's really exciting you?
The things that are really it's going to sound contrary to a lot of the buzzwords that are in market at the moment is
Yeah.
everyone's like agents, agentic systems. We're probably on, what's exciting me is on the other end of the spectrum, which is the micro products that solve one task really, really well, and the ability to build and execute on those micro products really, really fast. And why that's exciting me is, and we talk to a lot of businesses, and we ask them, and they see all this stuff. Like, we need an agentic flow and this agentic system, and you need AI agents doing these 50 things. 99% of them are like, you've lost me at agentic system, and they just switch off. But when we say to them,
Also
oh,
lost me.
cool.
Could you quickly explain what a agentic system is for myself,
Yeah.
but all the viewers? I mean, the viewers. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you start with like AI agents, which is the latest sort of phrase in market, which it's you can get them, you can get access to them. I always think about a real estate agent. So if you think about a real estate agent, you bring on a real estate agent and it acts, or that real estate agent acts autonomously for you. So you say, I want to sign up for a campaign, and you're going to be my real estate agent. You're going to make decisions and choices. You're going to run our open homes. You're going to run our campaigns. You're going to negotiate. If you apply that logic to an AI agent, whereas ChatGPT, you're getting it to do a task, and it does that task, whereas agents are now working more autonomously. And Kenji, like a deep research, as you described that deep research task, that's in that agent territory where it's starting to say, the user has asked me this. So my first step is to go and research these websites. Oh, I didn't find my answers in that website. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the user's query slightly and then search these websites. And then agentic systems is sort of the next step where you think about, well, how am I thinking, like that sort of system theory, how am I thinking of my business as a system, a complex system with interrelationships, whatever sort of nodes, functions, and connections between them? And what's the role of agents connected in workflows? But in a simple term, it's like most businesses where you're running a system in your business. You're getting employees that are making decisions and working together on across processes. Well, what does that look like when you've got a number of AI agents, working across systems, making choices? How are they connected together and working effectively? Not just in one process, but making those connections, understanding, bringing in context, and then making decisions amongst themselves to get you to an outcome.
Yeah, so it sounds like that's closer to what we were speaking about earlier, which is the replacement of the human, or things that you
Yeah.
can take away from the human's agency or decision making. And you mentioned that the more exciting things are the micro tasks, and like as soon as you said, or micro products, pardon me, and as soon as you said micro products, I was like, man, there is so many things to do repetitively that I'm sure my ignorance could be shattered so quickly and have automated, like just as simple as your morning routine, Gareth. So yeah, sorry for cutting you off, but I'd love to hear more about why micro products is really lighting the fire at the moment.
Yeah. Well, it's lighting the fire because as soon as we talk that way, businesses go, oh, thank God I can understand that. And I feel like I can do it because their reaction, and there are some really cool agents out there. Like I watch demos and we've built some of them. And you watch a demo, you go, wow, that's pretty cool. I can get a AI agent that does all of my admin for me. It answers all my phone calls, and it would list off all these great things. That gives most business owners a headache because they're like, it sounds really cool, but not for me. I don't have the time to wrap my brain around it and get it in. Like I can see how it would be cool, but no, I just can't. I'm barely keeping my head above the water doing my day to day. I can't even fathom how that would work. So when we say to them, we say, okay, well, do you want to have conversations with your customers, the customers you don't have time to have conversations with, through an SMS channel? Oh, yeah. So do you want to ask them 2 questions and get them booked into a meeting? Yeah, that would be great. Cool. There's one product that can do that for you. And it just so happens it's powered by a generative AI tool. And you give us a name and a mobile number and it can start having conversations. They're like, oh, I could do that. Like, and then they get excited. They go, I'm doing AI. And then they can like, their teams are like, our business is using, and it's really great because they feel like I'm joining this revolution now. I'm not getting left behind because they feel anxious. They can't get these whole AI agent stuff in their business. And they're like, well, I'm falling further and further behind. I'm being told that's doom and gloom.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that side of it, of the people that are seeing the rise of it on the news or through their friends or in a podcast, but like feeling they just can't get into it or know how.
Yeah, it's too complex, too big, like too far away, just
Yep.
ignorance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are we're all super busy. Like they're really really busy, and it just feels like this is like more stuff they've got to do, and they're like, when am I? And most of the questions we get is, I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. Like I know I should. I don't know where to start, and it's just not for me. Those 3 things are just and that drives them, and then you get this vicious cycle where then they constantly feel like that way, and then the bombarding of messaging is, oh, am I going to get left behind? But I can't even start. So it's like the ship has sailed and I'm waving it off in the distance. Like, no, it doesn't have to be like that. Even to your point, Kenji, is it might just be a case of, let's show you how to write a deep research query, demystify it all. And what do you want to learn? What's the topic you want to learn about? Like we get some clients, we show them how to write a deep research query to teach them about AI, or what's one great idea you had for your business. Let's put that into a prompt to run a deep research query, and then we go back to that discovering fire moment, and they see it, and they're like, and I did that. I could now do that in my business. So those like exactly you said, Carl, one simple task that you could automate. Well, even like sometimes I'm like, I get like we talk about automate, but even I'm like, I'm not the biggest fan of automation because it feels like too techy for me, because I'm not a tech guy at all. Like, oh, we'll run less automation. I'm like, yeah, okay. Maybe we can help you run your business better and get more customers or do that. Oh, it just so happens, I think that classifies as automation, but it's helping you do something.
Yeah, it implies an automatic process that doesn't have your involvement, right? Like that's how I sort of feel about the term automation, which is scary. I don't know if I'll ever be able to give 100% of my trust and faith into something being executed by a non-human, right? I understand that. I understand that reluctancy, but I wanted to double down on something really quickly, Gareth, because he shared some really powerful wisdom that I really like. And that was, again, like I want to get into AI versus I want to achieve X. And Ken, you agreed with Gareth on how just important it is to have that core story, the mission, the vision, like what's it all about. For me, like that in a more micro sense is, again, what do we want to achieve here? Which is such a great question that you asked, Gareth. And something that you articulated beautifully as well is that you didn't focus on the doing, you focused on the outcome or what it enables. And so I wanted to double down on that because it applies in two really important contexts for business owners and entrepreneurs. The first one is for themselves. So what do I want to enable? What do I want to facilitate? What do I want to achieve? Rather than how do I make this work in this context? And then for their clients, entrepreneurs, especially technical entrepreneurs, and Gareth, you proved to me that you're not a tech guy just in the way you articulate. Now, there are tech guys that articulate very well, but experts get so trapped in the detail, so trapped in what they do, so trapped in how it works. And like we're pointing to, it confuses the market, it confuses the clients, it confuses the people you're selling to. They actually don't give a shit how it works. They give a shit about what it does, what it enables, what it facilitates, what outcomes it provides. And so I really wanted just to use your wisdom, Gareth, to double down on that, because for me, that is such an important shift to be much more effective and applicable as an entrepreneur in many contexts.
Yeah, absolutely. It always makes me think no one wants a home loan. People want a home.
Amen.
But also when you describe outcomes, you open up the possibility of how you could get that outcome. When you describe the task or process or the product, you're limited to the task, the process, or the product. And back to what we were talking about before is everyone on the planet has access to infinite expertise. So the possibilities of how you might get to that outcome have now just exploded. So ruthlessly focusing on that outcome and being able to articulate it, it broadens your possibilities of how you can get there now. And, and the other thing that I always really find is that, outcomes achieved give a way stronger feeling of achievement, whereas executing on a task is sort of executing on a task. So we do this at Fryer every Monday to keep us focused. We describe our one priority. We only can have one priority. We have all these tasks that we need to do. And then what we have to describe, like at the end of the day on Friday when we catch up, what's success? What have we achieved? Or what's the outcome we've got? And then we always check in on a Friday and we go, okay, well, have we achieved that? And that feeling is so much more powerful than, I did those 3 tasks. So the two things for me are by really knowing what your outcome is, you open up possibilities of how you can get there. And the pace of change with AI is there's going to be new models every couple of weeks. You're only going to get new ways to get to that outcome. And there's this deeply human sense of achievement of achieving that outcome, like a well-articulated outcome that is like, and I know that's often what we try and push our clients is they often confuse outcomes with tasks, and we have to push them to go, no, you have to describe that that's not yet an outcome. That's a task. An outcome is more around, you'll know, like an outcome could be the team is significantly excited and aligned around the articulation of the product. Could be an outcome. Like, great, you get to that point. Have we reached that?
I know you're making Carl very happy by saying that, Gareth, because Carl, it just reminds me time and time again, don't get too caught up on the how, in terms of how that's going to be. Like, where are we trying to get to? What are we trying to do here? And, it's a great reminder to me, like, yeah, outcomes. Outcomes so important because if you don't get that outcome, you're never satisfied. You don't get, that joy that comes into your life. I remember skating with a friend, and my God, he was just so. I guess he was still trying to go for an outcome, but like he was just trying some gnarly tricks, and like it was way above his level that he could reach. But he was so frustrated the whole time, and I'm just like, mate, I just do micro tricks that gets me outcome. Completion, little completion, little completion. That just makes me so happy.
Yeah, yeah. I think we often overlook that that sense of completion and the joy from closure, getting closure on something. And like I'm guilty of this. It feels like I'm always on this treadmill. And was it Stephen Covey's 7 Habits book? I read that a long time ago. I won't say how long ago because then that shows how old I am. Is it sharpen the saw or sharpen the axe?
Yeah, sharpen
And it's
sword.
like
Yep.
this guy's hacking away at this tree, and you're like, oh, why don't you sharpen your saw or your axe? Oh, don't have time. Too busy sawing. Too busy chopping.
Yeah.
But then the extension to that for me is that we don't take the time to acknowledge when we've completed something, and there's this thing that in our brains where when we don't formally acknowledge like closure or completion, that task still floats in the back of our brain. So that feeling of I'm so busy, I've got so much on. Part of it is you've got this wash of stuff where you've actually completed, but you've never taken the time to go, great, I've closed that out. Even crossed that out on my task list, or scrunched up the post-it and chucked it in the bin, or celebrated with the team. Awesome. We signed the deal. We closed that account. We finished that. Even articulating that out loud, because then it clears it out of your brain around, oh, I've completed that. So you don't have that fumble and that muddle in your brain, like, I am so busy, I've got so much on. Like, do we? What have we closed out? What have we completed?
Yeah, you see apps like Motion, pardon me, sort of really coming to the surface now, ways that individuals can build their second brain, as they call it. Do you know much about the second brain sort of methodology, Gareth? Do you use something like that?
No,
Oh, right. Okay.
love to
I
learn.
assume that you'd be all over it. Essentially, a previous mentor of mine helped me build a second brain I think it was about 4 years ago, and similar to, I imagine, so many listening to this, and all three of us, brains everywhere, all the time, all at once. Very hard to switch off, always going in a million places. And I never had somewhere to just organize my thoughts and capture things and make sure that I could see a sequence and have a chance to figure out a process. And at the time I used Evernote, now I use Trello. But essentially I've got a way to capture tasks, ideas, goals, milestones, outcomes, visions, and organize in a way where they aren't just circling in my head, as well as, like you're saying, Gareth, tick it and move it to completed once it's done. It offers that closure. It doesn't leave open loops. And before that, the one thing that worked, I just remembered how great it was to cross something off of my to-do list. Like just being able to do that for whatever reason. I actually didn't realize how important that has been just for my ability to observe progression until you've shared how important that is now.
Yeah, my co-founder Ben, he's got a lot on his plate at the moment. He's brilliant. He's creating a new version of one of our products, but he's got a lot of, so he's moved to, and he has great delight. He's got a whole lot of post-its on his wall, and he takes great delight in finishing one, scrunching it up, and throwing it in the bin. Like he's
That's
like,
cool.
I love that. And I'm like, that's exactly like the crossing out. And he's like, it's even giving me more satisfaction than crossing it because I can like tangibly crunch this thing up and like chuck it in the bin. So that he
Yeah.
gets that experience whenever he completes something.
I love that, this conversation is a lot to do with AI, but the funny thing is, it's actually so much to do with the human being. Like, it's how do we leverage it to make the best of what we can be on this world? And like you said, great philosophical questions. Who are we? What are we here to do? And if all the tasks get taken away, then what is it? What's our genius zone? What's that beautiful, I guess, lane that we get to be in as human beings? And so, Gareth, from yourself and from Friday, what's the biggest message or the learning you can pass on or share to our listeners about people getting into AI, already in AI, or starting to see a future with AI?
So those wanting to get into it, it's easier than you think. Start with one task. Even this evening or tomorrow, open your phone, take a photo of the inside of your fridge, and ask ChatGPT to write you a recipe. That's you starting. The people that sort of more advanced in it is really think that you've got access to infinite expertise. The only limiting factor is the questions you ask it. So the power is in your hands of what is possible. And the better you get at being curious, noticing when it can help, asking really powerful questions, the better outcomes you're going to get.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love these. Love these chats.
One short hack and bridge to that, because questions can be hard. That they take a lot of time to develop the skill of. But something that's helped me sort of feel through and collect my thoughts and simplify what I'm looking at has been just to record me speaking and using that as the prompt, uploading the transcript or uploading the voice recording, and just, hey, ChatGPT, what do you think about this? So there are bridges to that, but you're right, Gareth. It's just crazy that the input 100% equates to the output, and you can spend some good time to really get your inputs right. And there's tons of resources, YouTube, out there to help with those inputs as well. But yeah, it's so funny. And even the difference of a couple of words can change the output. Hey, it's insane.
And I think even just as you said, Carl, it's sometimes just really leveraging those tools to not have to think about what it needs to be and have the just spitball into those, I did the same thing as you. We open up that meeting, just press record, it's got a transcription, blah, 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 because there's so much going on in our lives right now. As you said, Gareth, you wake up in the morning, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. But the beauty with these tools that we can organize those thoughts so much easier and then leverage the tools to make those implementations happen as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that talking to it, because some people, you just feel more liberating to do it that way. That's an awesome one.
100%. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Gareth. I've got Friday.ai on the web, and we've got your LinkedIn as well that we'll put in the show notes. Do you have Instagram, anything like that?
Maybe just LinkedIn. I try and do a video a day, just the basic stuff, like from getting ChatGPT to help me prune my lemon tree to finding ways to make Bennett less anxious. So I try and share those pretty regularly. So if you're ever curious about those, just jump on LinkedIn and have a listen. You can critique my beard growth or my hair, which is most of what the comments I get about. But every once in a while, people get value for the stuff I share.
I'll make sure to. Once again, thank you so much, guys. And I'll put all those show notes in there with Gareth's links. Please hit him up if you want to check him out. But apart from that, like, subscribe, comment if you've got any questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. Enjoy your Gold Brick Road. Accept that call. See you later.